So all the prophets of the Old Testament and the New Testament, they knew about the keys of the kingdom, the keys of David, and Peter was given the power of those keys to either shut them up or let them loose. What he binds in heaven will be bound on earth, and so on. So when he's saying that, Peter represents the Christian church. That's why Peter denies the word Jesus 3 times, and that represents the denials throughout history that happened, where the 4th century they made all these tribunals, and then they said, oh, these books are in, these books are out. And then they said in the 16th century, the Protestants said, oh, we don't want the Apocrypha in. The Apocrypha means hidden. And in the book of Revelation, which they almost took out as well many times, it says, to him who overcomes what? Overcomes the fact that they did this to the word. If you overcome that, remember Jesus talks about, like, I will become that man. When you accept Jesus, it's like, I will come and I will sup with him. What he's talking about is, like, you're going to understand these things. And these things that you're understanding are the things that are the understanding for the end times, what the elect will know. And that's what the Mount of Transfiguration is really about, those 3 groups of people: the Jews, the Christians, and the elect. James, the Jews; Peter, the Christians; John, the elect. That's why Jesus said, Peter's like, what's he going to do? And Jesus says, if he tarries until I come, what is that to you? But John, who represents the elect, is dead. He died on Patmos, or, in that area. So if John is dead, how could he be alive when Jesus comes? It's because it's a metaphor within a metaphor. Everything that happened to Jesus happened to the Word. Everything that happened to Peter happened to the Christian church. Everything that happened to John is going to happen to the elect. And that's why Enoch, which is part of the books that were taken out, which represent the Apocrypha, which means hidden, Enoch said, these things I'm saying in my books are not meant for my generation, which was pre-flood, Noah's time, but he's telling you that they're for a remote generation that is to come, who will be living in the days when the wicked and the ungodly will be removed from the earth. And many people have dreamed of these 3 days of darkness that come, and all of these wicked and evil people that are stuck outside, like in Egypt when the angel of death came. All the evil people were stuck outside, but the Christian people, the people that believed in Yahweh, in Jesus Christ, the Word, who has been saving us since Adam, they all knew about this. So they went inside and covered the door with the blood, which represents the blood of Christ in the future. And the angel of death came down and killed all the firstborn. And something similar, in my opinion, is going to happen in these last days. Get in your homes and get protected, and don't let anybody into your house. Even if they say they're family, it's just demons. And I'm only telling everybody this right now as far as the 3 days of darkness is because I had a really prophetic dream of this happening, and then I did a video about it and had like 50,000 views, and I removed it from YouTube. Number one, because I'm not trying to, be a great and popular person. I'm just trying to tell you what Jesus tells me. And he's been telling me this since my house burned down like 10 years ago. And the first thing that he showed me was the Gospel of Thomas, which was removed. And in the Gospel of Thomas, Thomas fights a giant snake. And we found out on my YouTube channel, show that I do live on the show, we're reading the first book of Adam and Eve. And Jesus protected Adam and Eve by casting that serpent into the country of India. But in current Bibles, when they tell you which disciple did what, they don't tell you Thomas is the one that was chosen to go to India, because they took all the books that all the disciples wrote out of the Bible. Jesus had 12 disciples, and all of them wrote Gospels, epistles, apocalypses, and they took them out. So just like Jesus had the parts of his body ripped off by whips and chains and beatings and all these things, and then they put a crown of thorns on him, and they were, gambling to get his clothing. That's all symbolic of what the church, the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, the denominations, the false churches, the false preachers, the Joel Osteens, the Joyce Meyers, the Kenneth Copelands, the T.D. Jakes, all these people that are going to burn in the worst tortures of hell, like that have ever been imaginable. If you go read the medieval Irish Apocrypha, where men went to hell and saw the tortures of hell, if you read the Super Gospel free on YouTube, at the end, or the 15-hour mark of that video, it starts telling you the punishments in hell for abortion, for blasphemy, for thievery, for idolatry. It's all in there, and they took it all out, and that represents Jesus Christ, the Word. They did to him what they did to his Word, and that's what he has suffered, because our God is omniscient, and he was at the right hand of the Father at the same time he was dying on the cross, at the same time he was talking to John in the cave, telling him, all these people that are down below watching me die on the cross, they think of me as something base and think of me as something that I am not. I am much bigger and more powerful than the man that you see dying on the cross, but I've couched it in terms of a man so that you can see the man in his sufferings and then understand that's what happened to the Word. You have to see it in the physicality to understand it as a metaphor. And that's why nobody could understand why Jesus said to John, take, Mary as your mother, and she's like your adopted mother now. That's John, the elect, and Mary represents the Holy Spirit as a metaphor, a virgin, which, because all the books that were dug up in Qumran and the Dead Sea Scrolls were never touched by King James, wrecking it from the diaspora times when they had the Palestinian Aramaic Targums, which were from Hebrew to Aramaic, so the people could read them on their own instead of having to bring out the old books every time. And they missed a lot of things when they did that, especially the wheat and the tares meaning, which is that Cain is Satan's son. And Jesus said, be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. So don't be guilty like them, but know what they know. And what they know is that Lucifer, Satan, tempted Eve into having sex, and that's what caused everything that you see today. And that's why sex is pushed so hard, is because it's the original sin, like the movie with Angelina Jolie where she cheats on her husband. That's what it's doing. It's telling you that's the original sin. And she's a Satanist, and Satanists believe that Cain is the son of the devil, because he is. And that's why he killed Abel and drank his blood. And that's why there are people that can transform. It says in Jude, certain men crept in unawares. So if they were creeping in and you didn't know, how'd they do that? It's not just talking about people like the false prophets that came in and you don't know that they're really false prophets, that like little kids and stuff on the side. That's not what it's talking about. There are literal people that are the offspring of the devil. But there's very few of them that are still alive that have pure enough blood that can transform. Only the top tier of people can still do that. That's why now they have technology that lets them change and things like that. And you don't have to believe what I'm saying, but I promise you that everything I'm saying is in the books that they took out. Jesus said that we can speed his coming by teaching the truth of the gospel. And the truth of the gospel is that at the very inception, when the disciples were walking around teaching this stuff, people were starting to come into the church like Diotrephes, who like to have the flowing robes, just like the Catholic Church people do. Oh, like, yes, Father, and yes, this to these people that are not your father, because God said, don't call any man your father but him. And they kicked John, who represents the elect, out of his own church because they were all poor people. And they put him on an island. And that's where he saw the vision of the end times, which is when the elect will be living. And if we can speed his coming, the only thing that you should be doing, you shouldn't be worrying about politics. You shouldn't be worrying about your own life even, except for what you need to get to the next day. Because we are not meant to be here to collect riches and store up our treasures on earth where moth and rust corrupt and thieves break in and steal. The thieves have broken in, and they have stolen, and they've taken what was meant to be ours, our treasure, and now that treasure is available. But where does your treasure lie? Is it in earthly things, or is it if you found out there were more books that tell about Jesus' life and the miracles he did as a child, or all the things that they took out about the flagpoles that were in Pilate Stadium that had idols on them, bowed down to Jesus as he walked in? Why? Why did they take that out? Because then you'd realize that idol worship is wrong, that idols have demons in them, and that's why Job was tested, because they took out all that information. So speed his coming, preach the gospel, and find out what the true gospel is. Scriptural-truth.com. Take care.